Danny Flexen for Seconds Out here at the world famous Rotunda ABC gym in Liverpool with a cruiserweight who, I was saying off camera, is no longer under the radar, probably unfortunately for him in some ways, Craig Glover. You're 10-1? No, 9-1. You just literally just told me that as well. 9-1, obviously the only defeat we said to Jake Bonnelly, who's since retired, which you said don't get you started, so I won't. Managed by Tony Bellew, of course, as well. Reason you're not under the radar anymore is that your most recent victory back in October, I think it was, you stopped Simon Vallily, former well-known GB amateur. How much of a kind of disadvantage, I know it was good to get your name out there, but how much of a disadvantage is it now that fighters will be a bit more wary of you, there'll be more tape of you out there as well?
I suppose so, to a certain degree. Don't get me wrong, it's hard to get in sparring. Fucking hell, it's hard to get in sparring anyway, but it is what it is. I mean, if they want to do something in the sport, they're going to have to fight me, aren't they? So it is what it is, but it's all part of it, I suppose, but I'm sure we're all going to have to beat it. There's only like a select few at cruiserweights, as in, I'd say there's 10, maybe 10 to 15, that like really sort of up there now, really. And we've all got to fight each other at some point, so it's just going to happen one way or another.
We were talking before about how a lot of the potential opponents for you, guys you'd like to fight, have kind of been taken out of the equation. Chris Billam-Smith mandated to fight Dion Juma for the English, Waddy Camacho choosing, and you can't blame him, as you said, to fight Lawrence Coley for the British. And there's others that have got fights lined up that you'd like to fight. Who's out there for you that are kind of names on your target list? I know you're out March 30th, first of all.
As I said, as you just said, then Camacho was the one I wanted really for this thing, but you can't fault him for obviously wanting to fight for the British. But the likes of like a Luke Watkins, I think me and him be a good fight. It's a really good fight on paper. Isaac Chamberlain, another one. So I think that's a good fight. I think it could be quite a big fight, me and him. Maybe a fight or two that he has another good win, and I have another good win. I think that could be a really big fight. I don't think it'd have to be for the British. I think it could just me and him. Our styles just would be good. Who else is there?
You were saying Luke Watkins?
Luke Watkins, as I said, he just comes to fight, doesn't he? So I think that'd be a really entertaining fight. It'd be a big fight as well. So
what about Matty Askin? I mean, maybe that's a couple of fights rather than the next one, but is that someone you consider? He's obviously from the Northwest.
Yeah, I mean, I think last I heard he's fighting in Belgium, isn't he, or something like that. So I think he's busy as well in May, but he's a good solid cruiserweight, you know what I mean, a big man, and obviously he was a British champion, so he's got the experience, so he'd be someone as well who's be a good fight. It's hard to get sparring with Matty as well, but I don't know what he's doing. So
tell us a bit about how you first got into the sport, because I know you're from a large family, and I believe you started in kickboxing first, is that right?
Yeah, I originally started in kickboxing. I was a bit overweight when I started, so obviously lost the weight, got into it, started having a few fights in that. Done right, but there was never really like a big sort of level to the kickboxing. I just sort of done it. Everyone, you'd fight the same people, beat the same people. So then I moved into the boxing, the amateur boxing. Only had about 9 or 10 fights. Struggled to get fights at my weight. Left it for a while because obviously I just come away from, because you start working and other things take over, but obviously the amateur boxing doesn't pay you no money, does it? So and then after that I sort of ended up falling into it, putting the weight on again, just obviously a big eater, come out of shape, and then I sort of just the whole story of me and Bellew, I've said it a few times, but asked me to spar. I was already sort of losing weight at the time anyway, because trying to get back into shape, and he was impressed obviously with the spar, jumped in last minute, and he just said he'd look after me if obviously I decided to turn pro. So,
and you'd met him before that, hadn't you?
Yeah, I always knew him, and I'd sparred him a while before that, do you know what I mean? We'd done little bits before, and I also knew him, and there was a few people around who were like mutual friends between us, so we always knew each other. It was all a bit, how it come about was between a mutual friend of ours called Gary. I bumped into him in town, and then he was like, do you want to spar Tuesday? Bellew's sparring partner, so he has not turned up or such whatever. I was like, Sam, yeah, no problem, yeah. Not thinking he'd actually say, yeah. All of a sudden, Monday, phone rings, yeah, that's spar tomorrow. I was like, oh no. So, but yeah, it just happened, and then I put a good account of myself, and he was impressed, so.
Have you sparred him a lot since then? I imagine you've done quite a lot of rounds with him since.
Yeah, I mean, I sparred him before the Master Neck fight, and but then after that, he was fighting Macabu, so we were Southpaw, so I never sparred him for that. But after that, then I haven't really sparred him loads before that, really. Just between them before the Master Neck fights, but
maybe he didn't fancy it anymore.
Possibly.
How much of an advantage has it been being around Bellew when he's gone into the big fights with the likes of David Haye and so on? So you, even though you're early in your career, have had an experience to see what it's like at the highest level, if you like.
Yeah, I'd say it's a massive one for myself. I feel like I've had 10 fights and obviously 10 amateur fights, but I feel like the experience I've gained, just not even like fighting, as in just being around. I mean, I was around for the whole Usyk build-up and the Usyk fights, and I was there during it. Obviously, the result wasn't what he wanted, but for myself, just to be around the thing was a massive experience for me, which I really do appreciate.
And what's the relationship like between the two of you? So he's your manager, obviously. What kind of things does he deal with? What does he advise you on? And where does he kind of take a step back and leave it to your trainer and so on?
I mean, don't get me wrong, if I ever had a thing, and I'd always speak to like Bellew, do you know what I mean, a bit of advice or anything like that, I'd speak to Bellew. But I'm very close to my trainer, Joe McNally, so I can speak to him over pretty much anything anyway, do you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, I think Bellew, it's your career, because he's been in charge of his own career, and I think he's sort of drilled that into myself, it's my career, and I've got to be in charge of it. But he'll always be there to advise me, you know what I mean, what's the best route to take and what such and such. But yeah, it's like more of a, if I phone him or speak to him, he'll give me the advice I need.
On that subject, what's the best single piece of advice he's given you so far?
I have to tell, what's the best? You've just got to prepare properly. You've got to live the life, and you've got to prepare properly. And it's, as I said, it's not just in training camps, it's the lifestyle you've got to live. It's got to be a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week thing, 365 days a year. It's got to be boxing, and that's just it. Well,
you've said you're a big eater, and obviously Bellew is known to have struggled incredibly to make light heavyweight earlier in his career, and was a heavyweight obviously as an amateur. Has he given you any advice on that side of things, kind of maybe learning from his own mistakes as well, like staying at the wrong weight for too long?
Well, yeah, but not really, hasn't he really, but I see it myself. Like, I've seen other fighters who have a fight and then they pile weight on in between. Don't get me wrong, I could do that. I mean, people say I'm maybe not the biggest cruiserweight when I was stood next to Vallily, but Vallily was probably the biggest cruiserweight in Britain. I know you say you've got a Cole who's probably height-wise the same, but if you've seen Vallily, the size of him, he was massive. He was he was huge as well, but stood next to him, I probably did looks, but I think anyone would look small compared to stood next to him.
Well, it didn't have any effect on the result, did it?
No, well, that's exactly, so you put it that way, but I'll limit it, do you know what I mean? I'll have like a week or so off, and then I'm back to it then, do you know what I mean? So sometimes I find it hard to switch off, which I probably should do a bit more, but yeah, just living the life is the biggest part of it. What food do you miss the most when you're in camp? Or are there a few? There's a good few, like chocolate, just chocolate really is probably the main one I'd say.
Yeah, because your body's probably craving sugar while you're training hard as well.
Yeah, definitely, 100%, yeah.
So I've seen you say in an interview before that you want to win a world title, which I know a lot of fighters say, but you said there's no point doing it otherwise, which obviously we agree with. What's the route map to it? Like, how far away is it, and what are the kind of checkpoints on the way that you need to hit?
It's difficult to say. I mean, obviously the British is me first. Obviously points, so checkpoints if you'd say that. So, but then it's hard to say in it because I never planned on losing in my third fight. So how it's gonna go, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I've just got to keep an eye on where I want to go, and then whatever way takes me. Do you know what I mean? There might be like, it's a bit of a mad one, the cruiser, because I think the jump from British level to world level is like, it's huge. And some people, you've already got a Cole, you're talking about fighting Lebedev, isn't it? Lebedev, yeah, who's a former world champion, so we could be jumping from British to there or jumping to you. So it's how long it's going to take, I don't know, but as long as I've just got to keep it in my mind and you keep a positive thing and keep working hard, however long it takes, it takes.
And just before we let you go, you obviously mentioned losing that early pro fight and said don't get me started, but just to give you an opportunity, is there stuff you want to get off your chest about that defeat?
Well, it just is. To be honest, it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me. What I was doing and how I was training, I wasn't happy. where it was. So it's in that sense, I've learnt a lot from it. And only thing is I would have liked to have had the rematch and obviously knock Bonnelly out, but he retired instead, so never mind.
You hate him for retiring, basically.
No, but you know what? Fair enough. He came and had a fight, and so I can't fault him. Like, but if you're ever out there, Bonnelly, and you fancy it,
Call him out. Yeah, brilliant. Well, we wish you the very best of luck on March 30th, and then going forward with the rest of your career. I'm sure we'll see you again anyway.
yeah, definitely.
Brilliant.
Thanks.